T'Challa, the Black Panther.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 facts about Black Panther.
The Black Panther lives!
For this list, we'll be looking at some interesting tidbits about this superb superhero, charting his history from his comics inception to his cinematic debut and beyond. Do you know any other Black Panther facts? Let us know in the comments down below. Number 20. He first appeared in a Fantastic Four story. Before getting a groundbreaking comic series of his own, Black Panther's debut came in an issue of Marvel's First Family back in 1966.
So, you want to play tag, huh? My turn. Think you're pretty fast, don't you? Well, I got a few little orange moves of my own.
The story arc sees the Fantastic Four being gifted a fancy flying aircraft along with an invitation to Wakanda. Upon arrival, the superhero team is attacked by Black Panther and his forces, the proper greeting for Marvel heroes. It turns out though that Black Panther, now revealed as King T'Challa, was merely testing their might before recruiting them to assist them in defending Wakanda from the villainous Ulysses Claw.
Remove your force field, Mrs. Richards. You have my word I shall not attack any of you again. And T'Challa, hereditary chieftain of the Wakandas.
This story arc continued in the subsequent issue and beyond, but it would be another decade before Black Panther got his own eponymous series. Number 19. His creators. Seeing as they also created the Fantastic Four, it's no surprise that Marvel legends Stan Lee and Jack Kirby can also be attributed to the inception of Black Panther. However, both generally disagreed over who ultimately first conceived the character. This isn't too surprising, seeing as the two geniuses often butted heads behind the scenes. They both claim Black Panther stemmed from their desire to be more inclusive with superhero representation, especially considering Marvel's growing Black audience and staff. Wherever the truth lies, it's clear that Lee and Kirby set the groundwork for one of the most legendary superheroes of all time.
You know what? I think I'll just take these, bring them over here, and hold on for safekeeping.
Number 18. Cold Tiger. Speaking of the character's creation, did you know that he was very nearly not called Black Panther? Indeed, Kirby's original concept art for the superhero had him labeled as Cold Tiger, which definitely isn't as marketable, to say the least. The Black Panther name ultimately came from a pulp adventure story wherein the hero had a Black Panther companion. Interestingly enough, Kirby's original Cold Tiger would appear in a 1992 Avengers comic as an alternate universe T'Challa from Earth 355. His costume looks a little like comics Wolverine by way of Doctor Strange, but it's still interesting to see what might have been. Number 17. T'Challa has a PhD in physics. Most people think of Black Panther as being a highly athletic and agile superhero, but you shouldn't sleep on his genius level intellect. T'Challa is highly skilled in the field of engineering, creating rudimentary teleportation devices and even weapons that can best vibranium. But hands down, T'Challa's greatest area of expertise is physics. In his youth, T'Challa traveled to America and Europe to study the outside world, albeit incognito so no one would know he was a Wakandan prince.
Selling off small amounts of our vibranium allowed me to amass a fortune and attend the finest schools.
Along the way, he earned a PhD in physics from Oxford University, putting his knowledge to use by creating the quantum field of shadow physics to track vibranium.
Do you guys just put the word quantum in front of everything?
So, if he has a PhD, does that make him Dr. Black Panther? Number 16. The Dora Milaje.
No! Your heart is so full of hatred, you are not fit to be a king!
With the advent of the movies, every self-respecting MCU fan knows Wakanda's kick-ass group of female warriors known as the Dora Milaje.
I'm not a spy who can come and go as they so choose. I am loyal to that throne, no matter who sits upon it.
While the group may seem integral to Wakanda's dynamic now, many will be surprised to learn that they didn't appear in Black Panther comics until well into its run. Indeed, it was as recently as Black Panther Volume 3 Number 1 in 1998 that the Dora Milaje debuted. A couple of Black Panther movies' most notable characters, Nakia and Okoye, spearheaded the Dora Milaje in the comics when T'Challa had them reinstated. However, Nakia is much different on the page, becoming obsessed with T'Challa and ultimately donning the supervillain moniker Malice. Number 15. Powerful enemies. Though Black Panther's power set may not be as flashy and bombastic as other superheroes, he's actually proven himself to contend with and even defeat some of Marvel's greatest villains. In addition to grappling with the Fantastic Four, Black Panther's also single-handedly bested baddies like the Demon Mephisto and even Doctor Doom. This is largely due to his advanced intellect and being able to apply it in battle as one of the world's best hand-to-hand fighters. He's often been compared to Captain America physically and to Batman in terms of smarts and resources. So it's no wonder why Black Panther is such a force to be reckoned with.
Move, Captain. I won't ask a second time.
Number 14. Black Panther in animation. Though Black Panther's only been depicted in live action relatively recently, the character actually has a long-standing history on the animated side of things. Back in the 90s, when it seemed like every major superhero had their own animated series, Black Panther made his TV debut on Fantastic Four, wherein he was voiced by legendary character actor Keith David.
Let the monument of the Panther stand tall. The Black Panther's ready to stalk again.
From there, Black Panther also made varied appearances in the likes of X-Men the Animated Series, Iron Man Armored Adventures, The Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and Avengers Assemble. Most notably, however, was his self-titled series on BET, where he was voiced by Jamon Hounsou, who plays Korath in the MCU.
Claw, one question. Do you have any children?
No, I don't.
Good. Because I would have to kill them too.
Number 13. Quinjet Designer. One of the most famous flying vehicles in all of comics, the Quinjet is the signature mode of transportation for the Avengers. While you would be forgiven for thinking that Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, had something to do with its creation, it was actually the Wakanda design group, spearheaded by T'Challa himself, that put the first one together. This is hardly surprising, seeing as Wakanda is the most technologically advanced country in the Marvel Universe. Of course, the MCU's Wakanda was still a secret society during the first two phases, so S.H.I.E.L.D. is initially presented as the Quinjet's progenitors, but 2018's Black Panther shows Wakanda as having an arguably superior aircraft in the Royal Talon Fighter.
This never gets old.
Number 12. Daredevil had him watch over Hell's Kitchen. Black Panther is intrinsically known as fighting for the nation of Wakanda. Even when he's international, he still tends to handle world-changing threats. So it's interesting to note that he once downsized by operating within the Manhattan neighborhood of Hell's Kitchen. Famously the stomping grounds for Daredevil, Hell's Kitchen was at one point put under the protection of Black Panther when both heroes needed to rediscover their place in the world. While there, T'Challa fought villains like Vlad the Impaler and Kraven the Hunter. He even at one point rejoined the Avengers. Still, this story arc was never meant to last, as T'Challa eventually returned to Wakanda. Number 11. A real-life enemy. Most people would know Captain America fought Adolf Hitler in his very first issue back in 1941. But did you know Black Panther literally went up against the KKK? Before he got his own series, Black Panther headlined several issues of jungle action back in the mid-70s. One comic arc sees him go up against none other than the real-life hate group, the Ku Klux Klan. It's pretty on-the-nose stuff, but it's also fairly emblematic of the era's relationship with comics and American history. Suffice it to say, it wasn't a very popular run, especially in the Marvel offices. Number 10. Several superhero teams.
Should we bow?
Yeah, he's a king.
Seems like I'm always thanking you for something.
What are you doing?
We don't do that here.
We've already mentioned that Black Panther's been a member of the Avengers. Let's keep it real. Almost every Marvel hero has at some point. But his penchant for being a team player doesn't stop there. In addition to fighting alongside the Fantastic Four, Black Panther's also aided the X-Men and been a member of offshoot teams like Fantastic Force, the Mighty Avengers, and the New Avengers. Given his genius-level intelligence, he's also served as a member of the highly secretive Illuminati. Though Black Panther will likely always be generalized as a solo hero, it's clear that he remains a team player both within and outside of Wakanda. Number 9. Alternate MCU actors. Of course, no one could have played T'Challa better than the late great Chadwick Boseman, but it's always interesting to think about what might have been. Reportedly, many actors were at one point considered for the role before going on to appear in the MCU in other parts. These include Thor: The Dark World's Adewale Akinnuoye Agbaje, the aforementioned Guardians of the Galaxy actor Djimon Hounsou, and even Falcon himself Anthony Mackie.
So you like cats?
Sam.
What? Dude shows up dressed like a cat, you don't want to know more?
There's also another famous actor who tried to get a Black Panther off the ground before the MCU existed, but that's a story for another entry. While we're more than pleased Marvel kept these other actors in mind, Boseman was clearly the perfect choice. Number 8. Marvel's first graphic novel. Though comic books have always included multi-issue arcs, they weren't always so streamlined and self-contained as to represent one singular insular story. That all changed when the medium broke through in the 80s with titles like Watchmen and The Dark Knight Returns. However, the Panther's Rage 13-issue storyline is often credited with being one of the first graphic novels, not to mention the first of Marvel's. Part of Jungle Action and preceding Black Panther's dealing with the KKK, Panther's Rage was universally acclaimed, with one critic lauding it for getting to the heart of the African nation of Wakanda. It just goes to show that Black Panther has always had terrific writers, and it certainly doesn't hurt having an equally terrific character to work with. Number 7. Oscar-winning movie. Speaking of accolades, the first ever Black Panther movie in 2018 broke new ground on multiple fronts. Not only was it a landmark cultural event, but it became one of the highest grossing films of all time.
Show off.
On the award side of things, it became the first superhero movie to be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, proving the genre's increased cultural presence in the 21st century. While it didn't win the top prize, it did become the first Oscar-winning movie in the MCU, snagging not 1, not 2, but 3 golden statuettes in the categories of Best Costume Design, Production Design, and Original Score for Ludwig Göransson. Let's just hope that all future superhero films can follow in Black Panther's example.
It worked perfectly.
How many times do I have to teach you? Just because something works doesn't mean that it cannot be improved.
Number 6. He married Storm. Black Panther and Storm of the X-Men are easily 2 of the most prominent black superheroes in comic books, hands down. So you gotta know that their union would result in one legendary power couple. T'Challa and Aurora Monroe actually had quite the romance in their youth, but his princely duties ultimately kept them apart. Years later, T'Challa finally reconnected with Aurora and reunited her with long-lost family in Africa. They married soon after in what has to be one of the most beautiful ceremonies in all of comics. However, a conflict between the Avengers and X-Men saw the husband and wife put in direct conflict with one another. This ultimately led to the High Priest of Wakanda annulling their marriage. Number 5. Chadwick Boseman's African accent.
Just don't freeze when you see her.
What are you talking about? I never freeze.
Though T'Challa in the comics got a foreign education as mentioned earlier, Chadwick Boseman insisted on going a different direction by giving the character a strictly African accent. To clarify, many African nations were unjustly colonized by European imperialists, meaning any ruler was thus giving a European education that directly affected their accent, particularly in diplomatic circles. Boseman, however, wanted to refute that notion and reflect Wakanda's world prominence by donning what was ultimately constructed to be the Wakandan accent. By doing so, Boseman subtly managed to convey that one doesn't need to adopt the ways of another person's culture to be a well-rounded individual and leader.
Wakanda will no longer watch from the shadows. We cannot. We must not. We will work to be an example of how we as brothers and sisters on this earth should treat each other.
Number 4. Wesley Snipes was almost Black Panther. Aside from Chadwick Boseman, obviously, no one else came closer to playing T'Challa than 90s icon Wesley Snipes. Back in 1992, Snipes announced his intention of getting a Black Panther movie made with him playing the title hero. However, despite the various levels of involvement with producers, screenwriters, and director John Singleton, the project languished in development hell for well over a decade. Thankfully, Snipes was able to star in the first successful Marvel movie anyway, playing another landmark Black hero, Blade.
You're one of them, aren't you?
No. I'm something else.
Even after 3 Blade movies, Snipes continued to push for Black Panther. However, 3 years spent in prison for tax evasion and the advent of the MCU effectively closed his Black Panther window for good. Number 3. Shuri has become the Black Panther. While T'Challa is most associated with the moniker, a number of names have assumed Black Panther duties, especially seeing as it's technically a title passed on through generations. The most notable comics instance came in the form of T'Challa's sister Shuri.
The nanites absorb the kinetic energy and hold it in place for redistribution.
Very nice.
Though a technological genius regardless, Shuri got her chance to fulfill her dream as Black Panther when T'Challa became comatose. The Panther goddess Bast initially rejected Shuri for being too covetous of T'Challa's mantle, but Shuri subsequently proved herself by protecting Wakanda from the villainous Morlun. Though unconfirmed as of this writing, it's been heavily implied that Shuri will assume the identity in the MCU sequel, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Number 2. Black Panther predates the Black Panther Party. A common misconception is that Marvel's Black Panther was named after the political organization of the same name that was prominent in the 1960s.
We in the Black Panther Party don't believe in no culture except revolutionary culture. What we mean by that is a culture that will free you.
Though both officially formed in 1966, the character actually debuted just 3 months earlier. Granted, the party's Black Panther logo was lifted from the preceding Lowndes County Freedom Organization, but neither that nor the character actually had any influence on the other's creation. That said, it wasn't long before people started connecting the two with one another. Marvel's superhero was even rebranded as Black Leopard in a 1972 Fantastic Four issue, but that name didn't stick.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. The first Black superhero in mainstream comics.
The warrior became king and the first Black Panther, the protector of Wakanda.
We've spoken at length about how groundbreaking the first Black Panther movie was in 2018. So it's only fitting that the character was equally as groundbreaking when he debuted over 50 years earlier. Granted, there were certainly some Black comic book heroes beforehand, but none had superpowers, and none really captured the cultural zeitgeist quite like Black Panther. There were some from the likes of Atlas Comics, Dell Comics, and even Marvel Comics, in the form of Gabe Jones, the latter of whom debuted in the series Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos in 1963. But there's clearly a reason Black Panther struck a chord with so many audiences, from his design, to his backstory, to his truly captivating characterization. In short, Wakanda forever.
Wakanda forever! Wakanda forever!
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.